Everyone thinks Port Harcourt is just about oil, but that's only the surface of the story. Port Harcourt wasn't built on oil. It wasn't even built by the British, at least not from scratch. This city started as water, mud, trade, and people who already knew exactly what they were doing long before anyone showed up with a map and a flag. So how did a network of fishing settlements turn into one of the most important cities in Africa? Yeah, this story gets interesting. Port Harcourt today is loud, busy, and powerful. Over 2 million people, major industries, and global relevance. But rewind a few centuries, and this entire place looked completely different. We are talking dense mangrove forests, winding waterways, and a lifestyle built around the river. This wasn't empty land waiting to be developed. It was already home to highly organized societies. The Ijaw people were among the earliest settlers here. These guys didn't just survive the Delta, they mastered it. Navigation, fishing, trading, they turned water into opportunity. Then you had the trading powerhouses like Bonny and Okrika. These weren't small villages. They had systems, structure, and influence. Trade routes were already active long before Europeans even thought about showing up. Further inland, the Ikwerre people, who called themselves Ihuruna, were doing their own thing. They were farming, building communities, establishing roots. Groups like the DOB and Rebisi had already settled the exact land that would later become Port Harcourt. So yeah, people were here and they were thriving. Then the 19th century flipped the script. The slave trade started fading out and palm oil became the new gold. European traders came in, not for people this time, but for resources. The region became known as the oil weavers, and this wasn't a one-sided operation. Local merchants, chiefs, and producers were actively involved. It was business, real business. But of course, business brought tension. Europeans wanted more control, less negotiation, more predictability. And then came coal. In 1909, coal was discovered in Enugu. Now the British had a new problem. How do we move massive amounts of coal to the coast efficiently? Canoes weren't going to cut it. So they needed two things, a deep water port and a railway. By 1912, they found their spot right on Ikwerre land. And just like that, construction began. Land was acquired, sometimes negotiated, sometimes forced. Communities like Diobu and Rebisi watched their ancestral lands get mapped, divided, and taken. And in 1913, the city got its name, Port Harcourt. It was named after Louis Harcourt, the British colonial secretary. That name wasn't random. It was meant to signal something permanent, strategic, and important. The port started operating almost immediately. By 1916, the Eastern Railway line was completed. It was connecting Enugu coal directly to the port. Now, things moved really fast. Workers arrived, and traders soon followed. Lebanese, Syrians, and Nigerians from across the country all recognized the opportunity. Port Harcourt was no longer a construction site. It was becoming a city. But let's not pretend it was all smooth. There was segregation. Europeans in reserved areas, Africans elsewhere. There were forced labor. There were tensions over the land, jobs, and identity. Still, growth didn't slow down. Then came the World Wars. During the World War I and II, Port Harcourt became a military logistics hub. Troops, supplies, strategy, it all passed through there. And with that came exposure. There were new ideas, new perspectives. People started questioning colonial rule. The real game changer arrived in 1956 in Oloibiri when oil was discovered. And just like that, everything changed. By 1958, Nigeria exported its first crude oil. And guess where it passed through? Port Harcourt. International oil companies moved in, money started flowing, infrastructure expanded. By 1965, the first refinery was up and running. Port Harcourt was no longer just a port city, it was now the center of Nigeria's petroleum industry. Then Nigeria gained independence, and shortly after, things got messy. There was a civil war. Port Harcourt became a major target because of one thing: access. Whoever controlled the city controlled supply routes. From March to May 1968, the city was under intense attack. There were bombings, ground assaults, and widespread chaos. When federal forces finally took over, it changed the course of the war. But the city paid the price. There was destruction, displacement, and deep scars that didn't just disappear after the war ended. Then came the oil boom of the 1970s. Wealth surged into the region, fueling rapid and widespread development. Refineries expanded, the Ione port was constructed, and institutions like the University of Port Harcourt were established. The city underwent a swift and dramatic transformation. But this growth came at a cost. Oil spills, gas flaring, and environmental degradation became increasingly common, and local communities bore the brunt of these consequences. And by the 1990s, people started pushing back. Movements like Mosop, led by Ken Saro-Wiwa, demanded accountability. That struggle turned global, and tragically, it led to his execution in 1995. That moment forced the world to pay attention. Fast forward to today, Port Harcourt is still standing strong, economically powerful, culturally vibrant. In 2014, it was named UNESCO World Book Capital. Not bad for a city people only associate with oil. But challenges remain. Environmental issues continue to affect communities. Urban pressure is increasing as the population grows. There are questions about land ownership, fairness, and sustainable development are still unresolved. But yet, history makes one thing clear. Port Harcourt adapts. It has moved from water-based livelihoods to thriving trade networks, from coal-driven industry to oil-powered influence, from periods of conflict to a rich and evolving cultural identity. This city doesn't just grow, it evolves. If this changes how you see Port Harcourt, even just a little, then you know what to do. Follow for more stories like this, because trust me, there is much more to uncover.